Carol Davis.
Okay, call to order our special city council meeting workshop of July 16th. We are going to recess for about 3 minutes as we move from the third floor conference room down to the council chambers. So we're recessing. See you in 3 minutes.
So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Call.
Move, we're done.
Call. Call. Call you, see.
Yeah, she's behind.
Well, I heard she divvied up the money to pay for the fence around here. Well, I know she's gonna tell me, I just said, yeah, I did it for Byron. I was told her that she could be a great asset to this community if she wasn't always trying to hunt something in
Completely agree.
This is me right here. Yep, that's you right there.
How are you, my brother?
How are you?
Good. That's good. Pretty good. Sorry, Mayor.
No problem.
That's you.
Reset up my computer. Yeah, reset everything. It feels better in here.
Chairs up there or something.
What's up, Chuck?
Not much, my brother, how are you?
Actually, doing all right.
Because he was in a wheelchair last time, that's why.
I'll
That's
tell
why
you
the
what,
chair's gone.
I'll tell you
good?
what, I'm tired of looking at people's names.
There we go.
Him. We're
We all right?
chair.
He's not in a wheelchair, we need it. We're doing good.
You hear that?
Sir, I'd sit on one of these tonight, that's fine.
Don't look at people's names for hair.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4. I bet.
One of my animals drivers when they
Ah, you can just sit on the floor.
part of the state. She had enough of the ladies.
Dadgummit.
No hair was
There.
her party favorite.
It's just gonna be bloody
That's appetizing.
for anybody.
Yeah, it is.
Carol, what you want?
Roller chair, like roller derby.
I think she just needs to buy it and move on. Well, that's what I said. You charge her. So, yeah, middleman.
Got it.
Okay,
Let me through the keyhole, man.
okay, I'm down.
All right, get out of my face.
Let her do it. Get it.
Hey, we need to make this quick. I only got 6% on my.
Okay, we'll reconvene our special city council workshop to a much cooler environment. It's good. Second item on our agenda is discussion and possible action on a plan with the target timeliness for the two structures at 117 and 121 East Oklahoma, to include not limited to temporary shoring, debris removal, follow-up, semi-permanent shoring to stabilize the building until restoration, boarding, securing the building perimeter, and future restoration of both sites. That's item number 2. Staff, you want to lead off with this?
I think we just turn the floor over to the group that's proposing to secure the building, and they're scheduled to make a report.
Do we have a spokesperson for that, that group? Carol, are you the spokeslady? I've met Mark. Come on up to the microphone. Mark? Whoever wants to lead off, just identify yourself and your, okay.
Construction. Well, why don't you talk after I ask everybody if they got all the documents?
Okay.
I've sent several documents.
Identify yourself and address, please.
Carol Herzl, 3119 Cedar Ridge Court. Is that right? And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody got the documents I've been sending, so I can go over those. Memorandum of Understanding, which is that Jeff and Carol Herzl agree with the conversations that we've had with Diversified Construction. We believe they'll do a good job, and we trust them, and it's our money. And so does everybody have that memorandum of understanding? Or I've got extra copies if people
Should
think they
make
didn't get it.
one point of clarification. All we received was the signature page The actual agreement we
Well,
didn't receive.
You can talk to our attorney. I mean, it's our
Just
money.
making
Carol,
documentation
can you
that
talk
we
into
didn't
the
receive.
microphone?
Yes.
You're doing good, thank you.
Okay. So you can talk to our attorney about that, I guess. Okay. And then the other, some people thought that we were dragging our heels, and we had sent a letter to City Council on May 2nd that described that SOD Foundation I was part of, and we restored the Rock Island Depot successfully. Jeff was part of the Santa Fe Depot. They restored it successfully. Diversified Construction had restored the gazebo in Minerals Park successfully. And as I told City Manager Alsop, you've got a file on that for, and maybe some of you remember that. So I think we all have a good record. So that's what that was about. So then, some people said we weren't moving fast enough, and I want to point out that the fire investigators are still doing that in Furl Flower Shop. That cannot be touched. They're still investigating that. And we have had conversations with Diversified about cleaning that up at what point in time we can, but we can't interfere with the investigation. And then look at my file. I mean, it's a mess because I get so much information all the time. And 2 or 3 people from the National Trust have warned me to find out about tax credits. Because if you do something wrong, if you start spending money before you apply for the tax credits, that's null and void. So that took a while, and I did speak with a preservation expert in Kansas City, and she explained how it should be done. And then we did pay the bill for the fence. Everybody get that?
Yes.
Okay, so and then we have a cheaper way for fencing, so we replaced the fence for monthly of half price of what we've been paying. And so we thought we did everything we were supposed to. At the last time I did a presentation, I asked everybody, am I doing what I'm supposed to? Is there anything I haven't done that you want me to do? Nothing was said. So Friday, when they Diversified tried to get a construction permit, they said, no, we want an engineer stamp, which we will do, but it'll take 2 weeks. And I think that's all the documents that, and did you receive something from Jay Hanna today?
Yes.
So do you all, how many are Masons? Mason? Did you know the building has that Masonic insignia? And it used to be where the
We don't
Masons-
want to see it gone either, ma'am.
Huh?
We don't want to see it gone either. We're not trying to tear it down.
Okay, well, I just didn't know if everybody knew that, because when Jay Hanna told me that's where he took his oath, I looked up there and well, it's on there, the Masonic insignia.
Yeah, that's where our lodges began, but that doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing up here.
It's not?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, well, just so you know, I mean, we don't want to tear that off.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm with you.
Okay. And let's see. And I think the shoring and the bracing that Mark Latham will address that, unless anybody else has any more questions from me.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Latham, President of Diversified Construction. And
Mark, use that microphone like you're a rock star, son. 'cause
that's not going to happen.
people want to hear what you gotta say.
I don't know exactly what questions that you have for us, but we do have an engineer working on the shoring plan, which is a temporary permanent shoring so that it's stabilized so that we can clean it out. That's going to take approximately 2 weeks, and I believe my son's actually been working on this. He's out of town, so I'm filling in for him. I may not have all of your answers, but I believe I do. I believe when we get the shoring plan, it'll be stamped by an engineer. We can apply for the building permit. And I think that's already been agreed upon for $100, if I'm not mistaken, for us to have that portion of it, and then we'll clean it out and leave the building secure. I don't believe we can work on the flower shop until they're through with the fire investigation. We don't think at this time that it'll affect our engineering. It may affect when we actually able to start doing the stabilization until they're out of the way. But there's not really an issue with us getting started in a couple of weeks, or at least having the drawings. I know there is a time period for Mike to review the drawings before he actually enters or gives the permit, which is probably a few days.
Does the investigation impact the common wall between the two buildings?
I can't answer that question. I don't know that.
So when you say you can start on the shoring, you're really talking about just the east and the north wall?
Yeah,
Is that
we don't
correct?
want to have an investigator that's in one building that may or may not be really stable, and while we're working on the other side, you know, we have control over our people and how they do that and what they do, but an investigator, they're kind of an independent person. We can't really tell them what to do. So we wouldn't want to endanger them while we're working on the building next to it.
Okay. So to recap, you'll have a plan to do this stabilization in approximately how long?
Approximately 2 weeks.
And then the stamp, the engineering stamp comes immediately. That's not going to delay that process at all, is that
No,
correct?
actually, the shoring plan is stamped by an engineer. That's what we're talking about. That'll actually be a stamped drawing that when we apply for the building permit that I'll give to Mike.
So 2 weeks, you'll have that plan submitted
That's correct.
to the city,
That's
ready to
correct. That's
submit to the city. Okay. And does that plan then reflect the total time to shore up the walls?
The total what? Time?
Time to shore up the,
No, the timeline on that is actually, would be part of our estimate, and I don't have that with me. That's not, I didn't do the estimate on the timeline on that. We should have a schedule on that. Do you need that?
I think that's important.
Okay. That I can't get. I can't get that until, my son is doing that till he gets back. So that'll be next week sometime. We can have that by the time we apply for the building permit.
Okay.
Is there a timeline that it needs to be completed by?
That's what we're kind of determining today,
Okay.
a little bit.
Okay.
And.
So in that
that's
timeline
why
that you're
that's
talking about, you're
important.
talking about the shoring timeline and you're talking about the cleaning timeline on both
Correct.
buildings, is that correct?
Correct.
We can do that. We can give you a timeline on that.
Okay. Questions from the council?
I might ask, did Brad give you a timeline?
Yeah, I think, and if you the city hired Midwest Wrecking.
Can you, up to the mic?
I saw the documents that the city hired somebody, I think Midwest Wrecking, to estimate their cost and how long it would take. I think 2 months, 1 to 2 months. And when I talked to his son Brad, he said something about, you know, if it goes over a month, we might bill you, or, you know, that we
Maybe
kind of
not
touched
billing.
on that, yeah, so.
2 months seems very reasonable to clean that out.
And that's just on the first building?
Yes, and then we have an agreement with them, if we're able to not interfere with investigation, and then we can go ahead and have them do it at the same time. But that'll, you know, it's much less a problem than the Berline building, because they had a basement, and Furls doesn't. Much less stuff in Furls, so.
Okay, all right.
Mayor, was this, probably not very many on this council. but
Rockstar.
Some of you remember when the Lynn's building burnt, and they saved the fascia on it, and but of course, there was a building on each side of it, there wasn't a freestanding wall. But when the when the Lynn's building was a Chinese restaurant, well, it burnt and gutted the whole thing out, and they rebuilt it using that frontage, you know, leaving it the same. So it's happened in Guthrie before, kind of.
A much smaller scale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, much smaller
Yeah.
scale.
Was you here?
I was,
Okay.
yeah.
There's a metal lintel across the front of the building that supports the brickwork, and it's warped. And there'll have to be some things done to be able to put that back the way it was originally, but it can be done. And I think that may be where the emblem that you're talking about on that is. That's all. We've done stuff like that in the past. It's not easy, but we can take care of that.
Okay, all right. And the issue of funding for these next steps, is there a support structure in place to financially support this? You're nodding your head?
We discussed it last meeting.
Okay, so you're still supporting that financially? Okay, all right, Carol? Any other questions? All right,
I'm happy with the progress personally. I think it's nice to see that they're moving forward with something.
one of the things that we need to do is set some timelines. That's why that information was a little important on the second step, unless we want to take this step by step.
I guess-
Do you need a timeline from me? I mean, on the completion portion of that, once it started?
That would be helpful.
How about we say 90 days? That gives it 30 days. That's very reasonable, I would believe.
The 90 days or the 30 days?
The 90 days. That's 30 days longer than what Midwest Wrecking said. That gives us a little leeway.
Okay, and that would be, again, to do the temporary shoring that you also said was temporary/permanent. I don't know exactly what that means.
Well, it would need to be removed at some point when the building was stabilized, but it could be left there permanently, not necessarily indefinitely, but for some length of time.
Okay, all right.
So it's not going to be pretty. It's just going to,
But from a safety standpoint, that makes sure that the walls don't come tumbling down.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay,
I have a question.
sure.
And won't the shoring have to maybe be modified once you get the basements cleared out and see what all you're working with? It could be necessary to modify the shoring to some degree.
That's possible. We could find that there's more damage than what was anticipated originally, or when the building goes back together, some of the temporary permanent shoring could be in the way of the permanent structure that goes back on the inside. I don't really know how the inside's going to go back together, but I would assume it would be steel of some kind, some
But we're
non-combustible material.
We're talking 90 days from the time you get your permit to shore it up and do debris removal.
That's correct.
Are you going to remove any of the walls or on the one building to lower it down, or are you just going to leave it the same height?
Oh, are you talking about the top of the wall?
Yes.
Probably at some point, there'll be some changes in the height on that. Some of that's going to be architecturally involved. It's not necessarily, the aesthetics right now, we're not doing anything with that.
And again, we're talking, now, the address is 121?
I don't know that.
Okay. 121, are we talking 121, not 117? 121, Byron's building. I mean, he has both of them, but
The further east.
yes. Okay, so I want to make sure we're talking about the same building. Okay?
I'm glad they're working on it. I'm glad and I hope you're successful. I really do.
There's not any reason that we shouldn't be.
Okay. Well, okay, so I guess I would entertain a motion to accept the initial part of this plan that we hope, all of us hope, would ultimately result in the rebuilding and reoccupancy of this building. Then that plan would call for completion of the structural integrity of temporary
Permanent bracing.
temporary permanent
Bracing.
thank you very much, within 90 days.
Correct.
So moved.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
don't we need to be in council to do that?
No, it's not, it's
I'm sorry.
an item on the workshop.
They're saying that
I'm
we
sorry,
can
go
take an action. Normally, you're right. Normally, we don't take a
The way
vote.
it's written up, we
But,
can.
it's written that way on the agenda, so we'll go that way. Okay, we have a motion. I'll entertain a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a number of seconds. Any other discussion? Okay, submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous to move forward with your plan with a 90-day timeline. And we hope that you are very, very successful.
Thank you.
Okay? Item number item number three, discussion possible action to approve resolution number 2019-11, which declares these two structures at 117 and 121 East Oklahoma as dilapidated and dangerous structures.
You would table that. There's no need for that.
We've already,
with what you've done.
with the discussion that they've had. Okay, we'll table that, item number 3. With that being the last item on the agenda, the city council workshop is adjourned.